This is, it has the information that if you do lose connectivity, it has preparedness information about what to do during and after hurricanes as well as other hazards. And again, this is for the Android. It's on the market. If you won't go to it, it is the official FEMA app that's out there. So if you go to blog.fema.gov, it will give you the link to that for your Android devices. And again, the iPhone and BlackBerry apps are coming soon, but we had this one ready, so we wanted to get it out for the hurricane. The other part we talk about is the team. And again, as we talk about responding to this disaster, it's not just what government at all levels is doing. It's about what our volunteer agencies are doing. So with us today, we have Gail McGovern of the Red Cross and Major Hood of the Salvation Army. And I'd like to turn it over to Gail now to talk about what our volunteer agencies are doing to support our citizens.
Thanks, Administrator Fugate, and thank you also, Secretary Napolitano. We appreciate your leadership. Our organizations are very tightly linked. They continue to work well together, and we really appreciate the partnership. We're now in the middle of what could be one of the largest responses that the Red Cross operations have had in recent memory. There are a number of evacuations, and that reinforces the serious nature and how far-reaching the storm is. We have operations in more than a dozen states. Our priority right now is sheltering, and last night we had 13,000 people in our shelters from the states that were evacuated. We have nearly 150 shelters open right now. We're preparing to open dozens more as the storm continues to go north, and many of them are being opened as we speak. If you need the location of a shelter, you should go to redcross.org. There is an app on our site that will show you where our shelters are, where the nearest one is to you. We also have a brand new app on the iPhone that also is a shelter map. We've already had 15,000 downloads since the storm began, so we expect that to grow. Like every other agency at times like this, the phones are probably going to start ringing off the hook. So if you do need to get in touch with us, the internet is your best bet. Also, local media will be covering where the nearest shelters are, and you can listen for that as well. We also encourage people to register on Safe and Well. That's an application on our website, and it's a way to tell family members that you're out of harm's way and that you're okay. And this storm is still ongoing. People in the Northeast still need to take precautions. You've heard over and over again, if officials tell you evacuate, I'm going to say it again. It's really important to heed those warnings. They're serious. And if you're not in an area that's been evacuated, make sure you have supplies on hand. We ask that everybody have an emergency kit that has food and water for up to 72 hours, radios that are battery operated, flashlights, lots of extra batteries, your personal medications, your kid's teddy bear, the stuff that you need to survive for 72 hours. We are putting the full force of the American Red Cross behind this operation. That means we have thousands of volunteers that are already hitting the East Coast. We have two-thirds of our fleet either on the East Coast or heading towards the East Coast. These are emergency response vehicles. This is going to last a long time, so those vehicles will be there to go through the communities, offering food, relief items, hygiene kits, and the like. We have tens of thousands prepackaged meals on site. We're able to gen up to be able to feed about 1 million meals a day. And part of the reason that we can do this is because of the wonderful partnerships that we have with other nonprofits and the faith-based organizations. People have asked what it is that they can do to help those that are not in the affected area. My guess is this is going to be a costly operation, so donations are extremely welcome. Regardless of the size, they'd be gratefully received. And also, there are a number of blood drives that had to be canceled in these areas that are affected by the storm, so we suspect there might be a blood shortage. So if you are eligible to donate blood, and you can do so, you can also give the gift, the life-saving gift of blood. And speaking of our wonderful partnerships, it's my privilege to introduce Major George Hood, who is from the Salvation Army, also a great partner of ours.
Thank you very much, and good morning to all of you. I'm actually here filling two roles, and I want to define those two roles for you. I represent the Salvation Army as the Chief Communications Officer, but today I'm also representing a network of of wonderful voluntary organizations that we refer to as VOAD. National Voluntary Organizations Active in Disasters is a network of 50 different nonprofit organizations, each extremely gifted with a particular skill. And throughout the year, not just when a disaster arrives, but 365 days out of the year, this group of organizations who are committed to saving lives and rebuilding lives after devastation work on how we can best respond collaboratively whenever a disaster strikes. And that voluntary organization has been mobilized very effectively thus far with this particular hurricane. And some preliminary numbers, one of the agencies are the Southern Baptist, and the Southern Baptist men are well known for their ability to cook wonderful meals. And already they have 131 kitchens on standby with an average capacity of meals of 130,000 meals on a daily basis. So there's all kinds of that type of work that will take place, pre-planned, highly coordinated as a support infrastructure for FEMA as we work together. Both the Red Cross and the Salvation Army are active members of VOAD. Now, on a Salvation Army standpoint, let me say that we have been actively engaged since Irene came on the radar screen. And the reason being is that we have responsibility for Puerto Rico and some of the islands of the Caribbean, and I would remind you to look back a few days as this slow-moving storm continues to work. We have been dealing with major issues on the islands of the Caribbean, Puerto Rico, and the Dominican Republic, and we have been reported, the last report I had, which was yesterday, 800,000 individuals with no power on those islands. And so feeding and sheltering and spiritual care is all being implemented still on those regions. In the early days of preparation, we put command teams in Florida, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, all positioned in safe ranges so that when we understand where the impact is most going to be, we will be mobilized and quick to respond. We currently have in North Carolina the capacity of 300 individual canteens, feeding canteens, that can serve 1,500 meals a day, and mobile kitchens that can prepare up to 150,000 meals. So our specialty in these kind of situations is mass care, mostly feeding, doing some sheltering. 3 shelters are operating under our auspices in North Carolina, and they tell me that breakfast began this morning at the first crack of dawn. So that kind of work is going on.
If nothing else, it should be encouraging that folks are, and from FEMA, are talking about servicing folks who have already had their turn, that the storm has moved away, and those resources are available for the aftermath. For us, unfortunately, it's not time to talk about the aftermath yet, as we are still very much in the thick of the storm.
Yeah, we had a couple of headlines from the